Welcome to Marina Bay and to sailing in the heart of Singapore. Over the last couple of days and all weekend, 8 world-class teams are competing here in the Extreme Sailing Series World Tour. And they're racing under the shadows of some of the most impressive modern-day architecture in the world. The heart of Singapore is beating to a different rhythm this weekend. The Extreme Sailing Series is in town. 8 world-class teams competing in the shadows of some of the world's most spectacular sights. Well, the Extreme Sailing Series is an 8-event global tour. This is its 7th year. It's come here from the Middle East. Oman hosted the first round. Competing are world champions, Olympic gold medalists and America's Cup sailors. This is the 8-team lineup here in Singapore. The 2013 Extreme Sailing Series lineup is strong, with new teams and crew transfers in the off-season. There's every prospect of new faces delivering podium places come the end of the season. And this is the lineup. Team Korea are first-timers on the tour. They've got a combination of young London 2012 silver medalists, Peter Burling and Blair Tuke, plus established crew from the Extreme 40 circuit. It's a big call, but pre-season some are saying this unit has the potential to take the title in their first year. Swiss entry Real Team joins the fleet for the first time. A crew of champions from the world of D35 multi-hulls, excelling on the Swiss lakes. But just how will they handle the intensity of this new domain? Also from Switzerland, Alinghi, the first ever European winners of the America's Cup, joined this circuit last year. They showed pace, won races, but as most first-timers competing, it was lack of front-of-the-fleet consistency that prevented them battling for a podium place overall. Rebel Sailing are the third unit from a landlocked European nation. The double Olympic gold medal winning duo from Austria, Roman Hagara and Hans-Peter Steinacker, were looking good for a podium place last year, but fate dealt them a cruel blow. They slipped to 4th in the final minutes of the last race. Few would be surprised if they put things right this time. GAC Pinder are back on the tour for their 3rd season, but it's been all change on board. The investment's gone into young Kiwi talent wielding impressive CVs. Their skipper, William Tiller, ranked 5th best match racer in the world. SAP Extreme Sailing is the only team with co-skippers, Denmark's Jes Graham Hansen and Rasmus Kostner. Last year, well, that was a learning experience, but they learnt fast. This year, expect to see them deliver. The defending champions, they're back. Lee McMillan's Wave Muscat dominated last year. For 2013, the Omani team compete with a new crew member, Musab Al-Hadi. Expect them to be fighting at the front, but unlikely perhaps to have it all their own way this season. Team Aberdeen Singapore are the invitational team for round 2 of the series. One of Singapore's hottest sailing prospects is skipper Scott Glenn Sidney, and he's taking time out from his 2016 Olympic campaign in the Laser. He's sailing with fellow Singaporean Justin Wong, a multiple Asian Games medalist. So 2 Extreme Sailing Series debutants on board. But there's proven winning talent on the tour with them. Rob Greenhalgh is steering, and he led a team to victory in the first ever Extreme Sailing Series tour. Well, as we're looking out at the boats on the water, that is the local team. Yeah, as I was saying, a proven winner at the helm, Britain's Rob Greenhalgh. He's won this tour a couple of times, but a couple of Singaporeans who've never raced on this tour with him. Scott Glenn Sidney, he's a guy, I was chatting to him yesterday. He's Going to compete in 2016 in Rio. That's his hope. Like Justin Wong, another Singaporean sailor out on the water for the first time. Right, before we go to the racing, let's see how the Extreme Sailing Series all works. All teams race identical 40-foot-long multi-hulls. They're fast, and closing speeds can be in excess of 100 kilometres an hour. With racing taking place on compact stadium courses, incidents can and do happen.
Trying to get now behind Team Extreme, they've hit them!
The boats are also extremely overpowered, so when the wind blows hard, they can capsize.
This is the Wave Muscat, they're over! Oh, the bows are bugging, the crews are clinging on. Oh, crash, the master's gone! Oh!
At each of the 8 Extreme Sailing Series event locations, around 30 races are held. Each lasts between 10 and 15 minutes. Teams must count every single race result. It's 10 points for a race win, 9 points for second, and so on. The team with the highest score at the end of the event wins. That's how the whole thing works, and we're live out on the water now. It is the countdown to race number 20. Lots to tell you about what's been happening out here. But you got the picture, didn't you, from the update just then? We said it was close racing. It is. We said the race courses are tight. They are. They're not much tighter than this, though. Marina Bay in Singapore, and what a sight this place is without any boats. But you add 8 of the world's fastest catamarans with 8 of the world's most talented teams, and we see some pretty special racing. So the final countdown now to the start of the race. The picture you're looking at is the lineup. I'll talk you through the leaders. This is a live race. This is a live race. There's a real head-to-head at the top of this one, so before the start, let's look at the battle that's ensuing here in Singapore. So far, there's been a real battle here in Singapore between Team Alinghi The skippers know each other's sailing secrets rather well. On board the Wave Muscat, Lee McMillan was a skipper of the Omani team last year and won the championship. On Alinghi, Morgan Larson was skipper of the other Omani boat and finished behind McMillan. Here they're on different boats. Larson's skippering Alinghi. Can Singapore deliver victory for him? The man Morgan Larson, he is the skipper of Alinghi. This is race number 20, and the man you are looking at there is in third position in this race. If you've just joined us, welcome. Afternoon, yeah, we're right in the heart of the Singapore. Thought you'd recognise the architecture. This is the 20 race. Each race, as you know now, has been about 15 minutes long. I'll talk you through what's been happening. My name's Richard Simmons, and I'll be with you for the next hour and a half to bring you some beautiful scenes from the spectacular stadium racing venue for this weekend only of Singapore. We're looking now at the start of a race, started about 3 minutes ago, and the whole course is no longer than, about 500 metres by 500 metres. I'll talk you through it and give you an animation of the course so you can understand what's going on. But the boats now are heading down to the left of your screen. Red Bull, the red and yellow and blue sail, the Austrian team. Well, they look to have a lead. The other boats that are looking good have come out to the left-hand side, and the game everyone's playing is often it's not the quickest way down to the route to the next buoy is the most direct. It can be looking for the fastest way down, and that's finding the breeze. But we'll just get Red Bull down to the bottom as we look at the course. We've just seen them start round the mark. That's where we join them. This is where Red Bull are going now, down to the bottom of the racetrack. And then they come up to this yellow mark once, back down again. And they come up against the wind to the yellow mark twice. And once again, they go back down to the gate and across round the green mark to the finish. That's the racecourse. Reckon it will take around 22-23 minutes. And this is Red Bull rounding the gate for the very first time and heading up the left-hand side as we're looking at it of the racecourse. And they've got a good lead. A little bit of history of this boat. We know many of you are joining us, watching on television here in Singapore. Red Bull Sailing is a team which is run by two double Olympic gold medalists, Roman Hagara and Heinz-Peter Steinacker, standing up there. They've been on the tour for 4 years. They've often been around top spot, and they've never got top spot. In the Olympic Games world, they were renowned for their light airs performance, and they're certainly getting a bit of that today. Very, very light as they head upwind. They come in this direction, they're going as close to the wind as they possibly can. Second place, this is the boat chasing them, SAP Extreme, mainly a Danish crew. There's one British sailor on board, a guy called Pete Cumming, who's won this tour before. They're heading up to the top of the course. As you can see the angle of that second boat, they can't quite make the same angle and they'll have to turn. But Red Bull Sailing roll into attack. And now come across the course. As we told you a little earlier, these boats are capable of closing speeds of around 100 kilometres an hour. Not quite that in these sorts of conditions. But they've got good breeze now. There are some big thunderclouds around. You never know when they're going to roll in. But Hagara and the Red Bull team now are coming across the racetrack. Second place SAP. They've gone very tight into the wall, as are the local team. And we're on board now with them. And Red Bull being chased by SAP Extreme. They're now well on their way to the next mark of the course, the yellow mark, which is just to the right of them. What a sight that is. They've got a lead of around about 120 metres at the moment. When they go downwind, we'll show you our SAP animations, which make the whole thing come to life. 147 metres. And as we go from the animations, the SAP analytics, we're going to see Red Bull round the mark, and there we are in real life. The Austrian team round the mark and prepare to unfurl that Jenica and head downwind. Nice mark rounding, comfortable position for the Austrian team. There are some people who are having a very difficult afternoon out there who are certainly not expected to. We'll talk about them in a second, but this is a convincing advantage for Red Bull. Got 3 new teams on the tour this year. This tour has been going for 7th year. This is 7 years. As SAP Racing come in towards the top mark, giving themselves some space now. When you're against the wind, you want to not cut it too fine, so the boat has to slow down to round the mark. Give yourself plenty of space. Nice tack. And they got the Jenica out early. That's a good unfurl on board that boat, and it literally turbocharges the performance as they head downwind. And SAP roll round the mark in second place. Red Bull Sailing, though, still have a very strong advantage. Third boat. It's the local team, Team Aberdeen Singapore. We talked about them earlier. The man steering's won this championship 2 times, but 2 Singaporean sailors, and it's a nation that is really improving at sailing. Their youth team, quite superb at the moment. Expect medals for them in the future at the highest level, including the Olympic Games. You can see Alinghi, the Swiss team, are just rounding that mark. Morgan Larsen, the man that we introduced you to at the beginning of the race. And Aberdeen just get ahead of them. So the local team are sitting in third. If we look at nations, we've got Austria leading. They're way away down at the bottom of Marina Bay Reservoir. Right in the distance there. Followed by a Danish team. And then Singapore just ahead of Switzerland. Multinational tour this. We're on board with Alinghi. And bottom left of picture, we're looking at Red Bull Sailing as they round the bottom mark. And this is the second of 3 laps. And they're just starting that second lap. you can see how variable it is. When we joined, there was big breeze and the boats were going fast, and in an instant things can change. But Red Bull seem to feel they know how to read the course in this wind. You can see at the top of the course on these analytics, a whole bunch of boats absolutely stationary. Well, that's how the separation can get so big so quickly. As Aberdeen, Singapore slide out of sight at the top mark, we've got some of the favourites, including the red and black sails of Alinghi, the Swiss team, and the two-tone blue sails of a team who are having a difficult day, quite possibly the hardest I've ever seen them have on the tour. They're the defending champions from 2012, steered by a British Olympic sailor, and they're now just creeping round that mark. The Wave Muscat just ahead of the Koreans, but this is another very difficult day for a team who've really dominated this tour over the last, 14 months. The Wave Muscat are finding things pretty tough here in Singapore, but difficult place to sail. So they go round the mark. Let's go back to the leading boat. It's Red Bull sailing. The Red Bull and the yellow and blue on the sail. And what they've got to watch out for heading up this leg is all the boats pouring down. There may only be 8 boats altogether in this fleet that travels the world. But Red Bull have got a huge lead. And they're not that far away from lapping, about 300 metres away from lapping the boats at the very back. So Red Bull coming across now. Well, that's a very quiet looking Marina Bay. I can tell you it was steaming hot about half an hour ago, but the evening lights come down here. It's more comfortable for the sailors. But what the challenge is the wind is fading in the middle of the course. Red Bull are leading, but look, they're trying to get a little bit of momentum. The sailors right on the front of the boat there as we look down the course. Wave Muscat, they've got a long way to go to get where Red Bull are now. And Red Bull are creeping up towards the top of the course. I don't think they've got anyone in their immediate vicinity to worry about, but I think they'll be worried if the wind's going to hold. Now as they go into attack, you can see them there, middle of the course, trying to be gentle with the rudder, no pushed, not forcing it too much, otherwise it can act as a brake. And well, the man steering has got a couple of gold medals to his name, but he's treating the boat very gently now. Just got a little gust, little whisper of breeze. And Red Bull is deliberately overpowered these boats. They can be so exciting when the wind blows hard, but in these sort of conditions, they can race in conditions that other boats simply couldn't sail in. So right a picture as we go tight on Red Bull sailing. There we have the brains trust at the back of the boat. What Agara is saying, he's talking to his number 2, Heinz-Peter Steinacker. He'll round the yellow mark on the final approach now. He's going to continue a little. No need for an immediate tack. As he carries on. Just must feel that the breeze is still at that part of the course. SAP are coming in now. The yellow top of the sail coming in. You can see them, the Danish team, who are really enjoying the day, but they're going to run out of racetrack if they're going to catch the Austrian team. Just one more buoy to round before they slide down towards the finish. But Agara now has timed that tack, I think, okay. He's got about 60 metres to go until that next mark. If you turn too early and the wind's too close, can force you to tack again, but I think Agara's avoided that, and Red Bull, who had a terrible start to the day, was jumping the gun twice, and when you're over the start line at the start, you have to recross the line, and well, the damage for that was 2 last places. But Red Bull are rounding the green mark, and now they're going to head down in front of the crowd for the finish. So the Austrian team now have a really comfortable lead. Well, there we go. I can hear a ripple of applause. It's going to erupt into a cheer. Victory for Red Bull Sailing. Well, they're a team that we always expect to see at the top of a leaderboard at the end of one of these events. It hasn't happened yet. Could it happen here in Singapore? Well, second, really light sailing, isn't it? We've got Team SAP creeping towards the finish. They're having a good day. I mean, there are a bunch of sailors who've come from a different discipline. They used to sail much heavier, bigger boats, match racing, where there were just a couple of teams in each race. Last year was all about getting to grips with things, but I was chatting to Jesper Hansen, one of the co-skippers on board. He said this year, to be honest, we were a bit surprised by our performance in Oman. They were right at the back of the pack, determined to do better here. They've got really good support. They're a well-funded campaign, and they invest those funds well. The winter training was in Denmark. They've stuck with the crew. They've no new signings on board for this year. They've got the experience of a man called Peter Cumming, a British sailor who's won this tour, really experienced in this world, and they're really beginning to gel as a unit. And the team that I really fancied in the heavier breeze last year are enjoying the lighter breezes here. Away from Jesper Hansen. And SAP, it's another top four performance of the day. As the Danish crew, nearly all Danish, one British sailor on board, finished second place in a race that really was very tricky, very light winds. But look at the next three coming up, because we've got two boats stationary. You can see the analytics there. The crew right on the bows of the boats to try and get the back of the boat up in the air. But you just watch, the moment they get a bit of breeze, they take off. Look at that. Team Aberdeen Singapore, Rob Greenhouse, the British former champion on board. He just got that breeze. Get into a groove. And Aberdeen Asset Management now, well, they were looking sixth in the face, 10 minutes ago. They're now looking at a podium position in this race as they round the top mark. Gentle bear away, Jenica out, add the power, and they've got a finger of breeze which is going to bring them all the way down to the finish. There'll be a big cheer for this because the crowds have come to see their local boat. The first time a local boat has competed on international regatta like this in Marina Bay. Well, they've seen a victory. Here's another reason for the crowd to cheer in Singapore. Third place for Aberdeen. Well, this is a chance to talk you through the boats. We've now got GAC Pinder. Interesting story this. There was a completely different team in charge of this boat last year. There was a 3 times world champion sailing the boat, but for 2013, it's all changed. Same boat, new faces, younger team, all Kiwis, and the Kiwi youth squad, as we call them, cross the line in 4th place. You know, they can get a podium place here if they carry on like this. But could they beat the top dogs? Because the top dogs here in Singapore are on board this boat. It's very, very close, though, at the top of the leaderboard. But Alinghi leading going into the day. Not quite so straightforward as it was yesterday, where they had a row of 3 bullets, which made their card look pretty flash at the end of the evening, and then a healthy lead over the rest of the fleet. But a 5th place for them, and there's Nick Maloney, the 4 times Extreme Sailing Series competitor, who'll be joining us later, always says you count a 4th in this series. Even the very best have their time right at the back of the fleet, and we're about to witness that as the Swiss team, real team career across the line. But the shock of the day, there's no question what that is. As we go tight and look on board the boat, it's the Wave Muscat. Marina Bay, that extraordinary triple skyscraper with what is an amazing place on top if you've been there. Up to 3,900 people can fit up there, but There's just room for 5 more people to cross the line, and the Wave Muscat, remember, these are the defending champions, and you look at the body language on board here. And here we go. They're coming down to cross the line, and just look at the body language of Lee. He's just shaking his head. He can't believe it. He looks pretty disappointed, and I know he was upset with some of the decisions made in the last race, but the defending champion here has slipped off the overall podium places. The conditions are light. Welcome if you're joining us. Yep, you recognise the backdrop. It's Singapore. This is stadium racing. More racing to come very soon. Well, the team that enjoyed that race was Red Bull Sailing. They've been on the tour 4 years. You want to learn a bit more about them? Well, they're a team with quite some pedigree.
Sat in third so far with Red Bull here on the start of day 3. How are you feeling about that? Sat in third so far with Red Bull here on the start of day 3. How are you feeling about that?
Yeah, we had up and downs.
Red Bull, it's seen Hans-Peter Steinecker from Red Bull. So we're looking out on a racetrack where race director Phil Lawrence has got the difficult job of setting the next course and where to go next. Plan is for a race start in around about 10 minutes time. Let's just have a look where we are at the moment. I can tell you these races tend to be very, very close. And what we're seeing at the moment is Alinghi just about defending their position at the top of the leaderboard. But it doesn't get closer than that behind, does it? I'm joined by a man who's made his name in sailing. He's been around the world 3 times in a crewed round the world race, alone and on a multi-hull. But he's also done it pretty effectively. A couple of podium season places on the Extreme Sailing Series. Nick Maloney from Australia. Nick, welcome to this.
Thank you, Richard.
Well, it's difficult. We've just seen the last race. We're just saying how close things are. Alinghi at the top, the Swiss America's Cup former winners. Well, they've got a bit of space between them and the rest, but the rest, it couldn't be much closer. But conditions tight now, aren't they?
Conditions are very tight now, Richard. It is a real game to play for these guys. As we can see, the buffer that Alinghi had is just slowly diminishing, and Red Bull, SAP Extreme, the Wave Muscat, they're just forcing the pressure onto those guys. Will they be able to cope? It's pretty dicey, and they're all getting really, really tired now. We've seen a lot of ferry outs of drinks and food, and really trying to get the guys to get some fluids into them. It's been such a hot day here in Singapore.
It is hot, getting slightly cooler, the breeze fickle. Big clouds around, could be more breeze coming in the evening. Yesterday evening, right at the end of the day, the breeze increased. And there's one team that will be desperate for more racing. That's the Wave Muscat. Difficult day they're having.
Definitely. Difficult day for the boys on board the Wave Muscat. They've had a bit of an up and down, and it's a bit uncommon for those guys. They're usually quite dominant, know their settings. They're usually really good at changing gears, creating boat speed out of nothing, and here they're just not quite finding it.
Well, look, the Wave Muscat are a difficult day, but a team that's just enjoyed the last race after a difficult start to the day is Red Bull Sailing. The double act at the back of the boat, they've each got a couple of Olympic gold medals, and Ali Mahag spoke to them just before they went afloat.
Sat in third so far with Red Bull here on the start of day 3. How are you feeling about that?
Yeah, we had up and downs. That's like it is in these conditions. Actually, we are always a little bit struggling in this really light breeze. It's the big boat. It's completely opposite what we had in our past career. We were always really good in light stuff, but in this boat we're a little bit struggling. So we try our best today, try to catch up for the front, and try to be safe to the back ones.
And you guys are always pretty close to the top in the early stages of these competitions. How are you going to get back into a sort of podium place and maintain it?
We would like to have more breeze, but today we have nothing to lose, so the others get pressure already, so we will see. If they make mistakes, then we should use it, but you cannot do something special here. So you have to be a little bit lucky, but if you are focused on it, you can do quite a good one.
Any particular tactics to try and defeat Alinghi in these conditions? They seem to be handling the light best.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. They're handling it really well. and they stay patient. Sometimes they go for the lucky shot and they look not bad with this. So start is important, not to be too far back. So yesterday we had 2 OCSs and things like this. So you cannot have this. So you do it on the racetrack and then we see what's going on.
And the communication on board, we always talk about it's a bit difficult on Red Bull with the Austrians, the English and the Australians as well.
Yeah.
So how does that work?
It's getting better and better. So we are all talking in English actually, and we get used to it. So it looks quite good now on board. So it's just by us. Don't do too big mistakes, and that's it.
And what about Singapore as a venue? I mean, pretty spectacular.
Yeah, the backdrop, it's unbelievable. It's for sure one of the best stadium racing what you can have, and we're enjoying it. So maybe we are lucky with the wind, and then it looks also quite extreme.
So as I say, 2 days left. You guys confident you can take this event?
Yeah, we need a good day today, and we have to catch up, and then we have a last day tomorrow. So if we do another 8 or 9 races tomorrow, so everything is possible.
Okay, thanks. Well, it's going to be a long day out in the water for the boys, so I'll let them get back, a little bit of rest, and be an interesting day today.
See you on the water.
Anima Haag, Peter Steinecker, double act there from the Red Bull sailing team, Steinecker and Roman Hagara. Well, there's no racing right now. What they're doing, there's been a big wind shift here in Singapore. Phil Lawrence is resetting the course. He's the man with the burden of responsibility for keeping this show going when the conditions are quite tricky. I'm with Nick Maloney, a man who's competed and achieved podium places at the end of the season on this tour. Nick, Red Bull sailing team, talented crew, made their name in the Olympics, but they've transferred.
Yeah, and it's been a tough transition for these guys, to be honest. You know, this is their 3rd or 4th year on the circuit, and they've come with an enormous amount of cred. You know, there's collectively 4 gold medals on that boat, and that's a really amazing thing to have in your CV. But I was interested to hear that Hans-Peter, they're saying that they are struggling the light because previously in the Olympic classes they had been unbeatable.
Yeah, the Austrian lakes, and I remember seeing them. I mean, there was no one else in that tornado class when the winds were light. It was a bit like Britain's Ben Ainsley now in the Finn class. The talk's all about who's going to finish second when he was sailing in the last Olympic campaigns, but it's the same for them.
Yeah, correct, and I do think it's time for them to start to shine. You know, they haven't won a series event here so far the whole time they've been involved, and you know that is a monkey on their back. And I've spoken to Roman about it, and he ignores it and he brushes it off. And for me, I don't buy into it. I really do think the weight is bearing heavily on him. This is the most important thing going on in his sailing career right now, and he needs to step it up.
Well, they are a fairly intense team, but yesterday they took a little more light-heartedly out on the water and did something different.
Well, it was very exciting wakeboarding behind Red Bull Extreme Sailing. It was my first time ever doing something like this. I mean, you see everything from a completely different point of view. Very exciting, especially when I saw the boat lift. I've never seen anything like that before. It's a completely new experience for me. It's great that Extreme Sailing in Singapore. I think it's good that we have this kind of thing for the public to see, and I hope it comes back. Oh, it's very nice to do something different. I mean, it's a completely different thing, and it's just nice to get out there and just do something crazy once in a while.
Well, that was yesterday. It was windy enough to wakeboard out on the water. This is now. The wind's definitely got a little lighter out on the water. But we're in the countdown to a race start. The evening light making things look pretty beautiful and serene out on the water. This is race 21. Let's just remind you what the course is. There we go. We start off. That's the race course. Short initial leg down to a turning buoy. Down to the bottom of the Marina Bay Reservoir. 2 buoys. You go around either of them. They go back up to that yellow mark. back down to the gate, and then the finish round to the yellow mark. Quick turning mark before a finish right in front of the crowds. The last race took about 19 minutes. The wind's pretty variable. Little gust came in, which felt nice and cool on my back just a few minutes ago. But the crowds here sitting to watch, big support for the local boat. There it is, just creeping round the corner. Team Aberdeen Singapore. Right, we're in the countdown. I'm joined by Nick Maloney. We're going to talk you through the action. Still keeping an eye out on that cloud there. The breeze came up about 20 minutes ago, dropped a little now. But we're now coming into the countdown. Very, very tight sailing here at the top of the course. Little room for manoeuvre. We'll talk you through exactly what's happening. 2 minutes to go to the start. And a downwind start. We'll show you where the line is. It's from the shore side there. The flag marking the one end of the line. There's a black buoy out to course. And it's downwind, so it's all about getting clean off the line, Nick, but a lot of people jump in the gun, and if you're over the line at the start, you've got to turn around and come back, and in this fleet, it's hard to find a gap.
Yeah, correct, Richard. We are seeing majority of the ultimate winners in races coming out of the start box cleanly and accelerating away. The fleet has had a lot of trouble trying to get off this downwind start. It's all about time on distance, but you get a small gust of wind and all of a sudden your boat is doing double the boat speed within seconds. So it has been very, very hard for the guys to judge. Considering that they don't have any lead time into when the breeze is actually coming towards the boat, you normally see it on the water, but because the seawall is only 10 feet away, there's no lead indication.
We're coming up to 1 minute to go before the start. There's the gun. Many new viewers joining us, watching sailing for the first time. So the start is all about timing your run down to that line. Our camera pretty much on that line and crossing the line with the fastest speed you can. But if you're over that line when the gun goes, it's an about turn. 45 seconds. So at the moment, everyone pointing away from the direction they're wanting to go. And when they make their move, they pull the trigger, they turn round and they get the turbocharge of the extra sail. But it's all about that decision. SAP have got the big Jenica sail up now, 30 seconds to go to the start. Very light breeze, you put that up and you get a gust, you can be in trouble.
Yeah, they feel like they're a little bit late. Real team also behind in the screen with the blue sails, the white star on it. And they're looking like they're late for the start. So they're Spinnaker out, trying to get down to the start.
Inside the 10 seconds we've got, I don't think anyone is over the line. You can see the line boat the other end. I think it's a clear start. It is confirmed by race control. It's a clear start. And off to the yellow mark now. It's a very short opening leg, and Red Bull have got a superstar.
Launched, absolutely launched. They've actually been the guys that have nailed it more consistently than everybody else here, but that's what you need to do in this race. You need to get clear air, you need to punch it out in front of the rest of the fleet, and you need to lead to that first mark.
So Red Bull, they're finding breeze. The Marina Bay, that huge complex, you'd think maybe taking the breeze, but actually they've got a little whisper of breeze, a little river of breeze down the inside there. That's a great start from Red Bull. It can't have been less than, half a metre from being over the right, but it's all about timing.
Absolutely, Richard. The time on distance calculation, so difficult to do, and that's where experience comes in. And these guys have been in this class for enough time now to be able to nail it more consistently as they approach the yellow mark. The first mark rounding, be interesting to see if they continue on or they make a jibe manoeuvre. It looks like they're about to make a manoeuvre.
And SAP Extreme Sailing, we've just seen them win a race and they're coming in. They've got a bit of breeze there.
Team Aberdeen Singapore also looking very, very strong in the early stages, coming in third behind SAP.
So Red Bull have rounded the mark. They're not jibing. And I guess you're prepared to sacrifice a lot of distance if you can see breeze.
Absolutely, Richard. And consistently there has been more breeze on the centre to the right-hand side of the course. So all along this seawall which we're working from is traditionally been more breeze this afternoon racing. Red Bull extending away now. Good shot there from SAP with Team Aberdeen Singapore hot on their tail. That's the fight for second and third there.
Just a note that right at the back of the fleet, the two-tone blue sail of the team that's consistently at the other end of the pack, the Wave Muscat, they are struggling today, but left a picture. Red Bull sailing, and when you get out in front, you can get clear air, and they're going beyond the centre of the racecourse. You could just see ripples on the water. There is breeze there, but often it gets very light, about 20-30 metres in front of them. These huge skyscrapers around the racetrack really affect the conditions massively. This is stadium racing, but it doesn't get more spectacular than this as far as the backdrop's concerned.
Absolutely. Singapore is one of the most amazing cities you could ever visit. By day or by night, it's spectacular, and it sets up for really difficult racing given that it is very shifty and there are a lot of wind shadows off these big buildings, but everybody loves it here. Everyone's having a fantastic time. It's a very unique opportunity.
It is. You've sailed here before, but you've never sailed in this bay, have you?
Never in this bay, and this bay brings you more towards the heart of the city. It makes it feel more vibrant. There's so many people here on the foreshore today. The atmosphere really is incredible.
Well, out on the water, the atmosphere on that boat with the two-tone blue sails is a lot more than incredible, I can tell you. Well, Lee McMillan looks absolutely livid with the waist.
Absolutely, and the interesting factor here is that they are fighting it out with Team Alinghi as well, who are not having it all their own way either. Down track, Team SAP, Team Aberdeen Singapore, they're on the hunt chasing Red Bull as Red Bull rounds that bottom mark gate, the left-hand gate looking downwind, and they're banking it onto the shoreline, looking for more breeze.
So this is Red Bull Sailing, who round the first mark leading. Latter part of the afternoon, the two boats that are in front of this fleet, Red Bull Sailing and SAP, were on board with them. The camera's just showing you the crew member there.
Final jibe into that bottom gate, furling the Jenica away now. We're all complaining about the heat here on shore, Richard, but these guys have been under that beating sun for hours now, race after race. It must be taking its toll. Yeah,
and there was a guy yesterday from Team Korea. As I'm just looking at the Wave Muscat. If you're going to have a bad day, why not have a really bad day? Because I think it looks to me like they're doing a penalty turn.
Absolutely.
And that's what happens if you make an error, you make an infringement on a race course, it's a penalty turn. They're now executing that turn. So Lee McMillan kind of lost for words. He's a guy who wears his heart on his sleeve, but he's sitting there. I think today's gone beyond that.
Absolutely, and especially coming off that so dominant period in Muscat round one, and to come here and not have it all their own way, it's a really hard pill to swallow.
Yeah, these guys, professional sailors, they may compete in other circuits, but these are the events where you write your CV, where your performances are measured, where you make your name. This is one of the biggest circuits in professional sailing at the moment, as Real Team head down towards the bottom mark. If you have just joined us and switched on, yeah, you're right. This is Marina Bay, Singapore, and this is the Extreme Sailing Series. It's a world tour. 8 events this year. We've started off in Oman in the Middle East. We've come here, and after this the whole road show gets shipped and packed, and the village, the VIP areas here, and heads off to Qingdao, the Olympic city in China. But we're now looking down on the action. This is where we're sailing city side, left of picture. That red line there is the gain line that shows who is the leader. That's saying that it is Red Bull Sailing, but hey Nick, that's getting closer.
Absolutely, and just even with the naked eye here looking across the water, it looks like Team SAP do have a little bit more boat speed than Red Bull.
And we're on board now. They're looking behind. They can see Aberdeen, a sort of double act that skipper this boat, are making it go fast in the light airs, but they're not using all the water out here because of where the ripples are, where the breeze are. They're trying to stay in these areas of wind. You can see those that slip outside it. The boat speed changes very quickly indeed. And Agara now, I think he's just in the lead, but I think that when SAP turn, they'll obviously slow down and they tack. We're going to find things have really closed up between the two of them.
Absolutely, Richard, and they are approaching this second upwind mark here, the yellow mark at the top of the screen. It will be very, very close, but I do agree. I do think Red Bull is controlling this race from this point. Team SAP have just dropped out of the breeze line. They're getting too close to that building mass on that far shore now and are slowing up considerably as Red Bull roll over the top of them.
So Red Bull looked under threat for them a moment or two. I'll tell you what, some of the other boats, we'll go back to them in a minute, made big gains on this upwind leg. So the Austrian team tack, SAP tack behind, but the Austrians it is who will round the top mark and head back down to the bottom of the course again. The Jenica is being raised. With the wind behind, you can use the sail. Just squeezing round. I think that SAP are coming in with a little more power and speed. Jenica out, flick unfurled, power on, and the Austrian team slide away. Red Bull Sailing, though, have been turned round by the local boat. Well, the boat with 2 Singaporeans on board had a super last leg, came in with right of way and spun the Danish team round. That was a good move by Aberdeen.
Very impressive move by Aberdeen, and that will move them up into second place. That is aggression. Rob Greenhalgh, he's won this circuit twice before. He's here to take scalps on the helm.
Alinghi as well were trying to do the same thing, and but for a boat length could have done the same thing to Aberdeen. But Alinghi are looking for a fight against SAP, but it's SAP with the Jenica up who slide off.
That was a very impressive mark exit from Team Aberdeen Singapore here, and they're sailing a better angle than Red Bull. Actually, if they can find a little bit more breeze, they will be a real contender for first place here. You can see the guys all forward on board the boat, really trying to put all their weight forward.
And on
helps
board
in this light weather.
Yeah, on that, look at Justin Wong on the bow there. He's never sailed one of these boats. He's got a stack of sailing medals from the Asian Games, but for a man who sailed these boats to have 2 brand new crew members, for those guys as well, entering this competition where all the other teams, are stacked with a lot of experience here, and then to be out there performing at the top of the fleet, impressive.
Yeah. Well, you see Justin on the front of the boat here. He's the bowman. I was fortunate enough to spend a bit of time with this team in the first few days preceding this event, and to help with that integration. And both Scott and Justin, they were a blessing in disguise. You do never know what you're going to get when the teams pull together at late stage, but fortunately for these guys, they came with unbelievable enthusiasm and credibility and skill. So Rob, as the helmsman, generally under the most pressure, was absolutely delighted to welcome these guys on board.
Yeah, I guess fairly intimidating, rocking up knowing you've got 2 new crew and not knowing the personalities or the skills. But at the moment, it's a good afternoon for them. As we look down the racetrack, these SAP animations take some of the mystery out of what could be a complicated sport to follow. Those 2 boys there with the circle around, you can go around either of those gates. One of the reasons is it separates the boat when it's crowded and windy and potentially dangerous. But it offers another tactical choice. The team's deciding which rounding provides the best option for the next upwind leg. But Red Bull Sailing, they've rounded. They're going out into the middle of the course. I don't know which one I pick now.
Well, there is a split here. We have Red Bull taking the right-hand gate, looking downwind, and they're heading out into the middle of the course. They're actually a little bit nervous about it. They're making a manoeuvre now because Team Aberdeen in second place has opted to do the exact opposite of them. They took the left-hand mark. They're right against the seawall. They're in pretty good breeze, pretty nice angle, and they're on the attack. Big separation between the 2 boats now.
Yeah, sorry, Nick, interrupting. 24 metres the advantage there that Red Bull Sailing's got. So, and I guess what Red Bull are doing, well, is they're keeping an eye on their opposition, trying to keep in the same, a loose cover, perhaps we call that. Just say, I don't want to let you get off on your own in case that does turn out to be the right-hand side, the correct side to go. So they just put a cover in there.
It is.
And I'm liking the left-hand side actually. They're keeping the momentum. The angle's right. They're giving the crowds a super view. This is stadium sailing. It must be strange for you, having sailed, across oceans and around the planet, to rock up and race in these sort of places where you can certainly see the crowds and almost touch them.
It was a huge transition for me. I invested a lot of time into the more adventurous aspect of sailing and oceanic sailing, and my last oceanic tour around the world was solo. I was at sea for 100 days and didn't see any land or any other people for all that time, and then to transition into this where the race course wall is quite often 10 feet away from the boat and you're integrating with 4 other sailors was quite a different transition for me, but one that I absolutely love. So we see Red Bull now coming up, working the centre of the course. They've done fine in that tactical decision. They're in good breeze. I always bank the middle of this course. I think it's been strong all week.
Yeah, you've been saying that all week, and the finger of breeze that comes down here as more people have come out at the end of the day. It's more comfortable conditions. So Red Bull just doing exactly what Nick Maloney is saying. They're crisscrossing up the middle of the racecourse. They've almost said, no, we're looking upon this as it has got a river of wind up the middle and we're going to stick in it, and they're doing well. And we're SAP, who were second. I think they still are second.
Well, Team Aberdeen were actually second at that bottom mark, and they took that right-hand gate along with Red Bull and have come out with a... Team SAP took that right-hand gate at the bottom mark and have come out second.
Indeed, Aberdeen was second at the top mark, got overhauled and now fought back. Aberdeen, and they're being slowed down by Alinghi. But Aberdeen, there's some breeze in the corner there as they come up. After this yellow mark, one more to go round before they slide down towards the finish. But it's Red Bull who are enjoying the sunshine, go right over to the Marina Bay complex and tack. SAP come round in breeze. And I think that Red Bull will be pleased things are so close behind, because they can concentrate on their own game. If they tacked and they can lay that mark, they're looking good for victory in this race. We're on board with SAP. Alinghi have tacked early. They didn't want to simply follow them. But that means that they will be coming into the mark with right of way. But I think that SAP, difficult call. SAP is slow at the moment. Let's see Red Bull around first, though, because they are now comfortably ahead. And their race has always been about a very good start. They hit the line absolutely on the button. Within about 2 minutes, they had a 30-metre advantage. They extended that advantage going downwind, and then going upwind, they kept an eye on their competition. And I think they listened to you, Nick. They stayed bang in the middle of the racetrack.
Well, take a look at this, Richard. Team Alinghi taking that early attack has allowed them to pass through the leeward side of Team SAP as Red Bull take that win. A very solid win for those guys, very convincing. Last two races have been very, very strong.
Yeah, Alinghi saw the opportunity, saw the breeze was light by the shore, tacked early, didn't want to follow, and got the position back that they overhauled down at the bottom mark. Alinghi will finish second, which will put further angst on the Wave Muscat.
Yeah,
that was at the top of the table.
That was an interesting one because they were fifth at one point in this race and they battled back.
He's too hot to be happy, but there's almost a smile there on Morgan Larsson's face. And SAP may be a little disappointed to lose that place, but yeah, that's a third place in these conditions. They should be pleased with that. Real Team just behind. They were in the mix throughout this race at the front end. Aberdeen got up to second at one point. They'll feel that they perhaps shouldn't have lost those places right at the end. But now, the Wave Muscat, the defending champions from 2012, they have collected a couple of new places. And the Wave Muscat, well, they had Korea behind them, they got GAC behind them, but we're going to look on board this crew because I guess it's about keeping a composure when your day's going as badly as it has been today.
Yeah, you can see on Lee's face there, he's not enjoying this at all. It's been a long, hot day, frustrating, and when things aren't rolling your way, as you say, it just seems to get worse and worse and worse. They're gonna be happy when they see the end of this day for sure.
GAC Pinter, the young guns from New Zealand. William Tiller there. Enjoyed yesterday, tougher today, but they're still absolutely in the mix. Very close points. We'll give you a scoreboard in a moment or two. Last in this race is Team Korea, Peter Burling. Second ever event for the man who went to London 2012 and collected silver for his nation of New Zealand. He's tried a little bit of America's Cup sailing. Got noticed there. And then for this season, Team Korea, one of the new teams on the Extreme Sailing Series, which is touring the world until completion. And completion, well, that will happen right at the end of the year in the 2016 Olympic venue, Rio de Janeiro. So Team Korea at the back of the pack. Race 21, more races to come this afternoon. Welcome if you've just joined us. It's the Extreme Sailing Series in the heart of Singapore. So we'll give you a scoreboard, we'll give you an up-to-date. We've got more racing to come. But Alinghi, though, are still dominating and at the top of this scoreboard. And the man in charge of Alinghi, Morgan Larsson, well, he was in a good sort of mood, looking forward to today just before he left the dock.
Okay, Morgan, it's the penultimate day here in Singapore. You've got a good lead, so how are you feeling about going out there today?
You know, here in Singapore, it's a challenge every day, and I don't think he can rest.
Challenge every day, he was saying, Morgan Larsson. It's difficult sailing this, isn't it? Because, I mean, you see it in these conditions, very, very different to the sort of sailing when the wind clicks up. And actually, getting round the racetrack in one piece is a challenge.
You need to be really disciplined in these conditions, and we just saw a shot there of Morgan taking on hydration, and he's a really calm, cool, collected guy, and both he and I guess the Wave have been under pressure, both spotlights on them, and he just seems to be hanging in there a little bit better. He's a guy that's really hard to rattle, and you know, it's a great mentality to have in these sorts of conditions.
Well, his mentality has been translated into a winning position in this tour at the moment. 168 points for Alinghi. That's a big lead in this competition. Often there's just 1 or 2 points between the top of the table. Red Bull sailing team 143, SAP sailing team. That's a big move for that team, who really, you know, they're relatively new to the circuit from the other teams, just 2 points behind Red Bull. Note that the Wave Muscat never write them off, because yeah, they've slipped down the leaderboard, but Lee McMillan has proved on so many times his ability to bounce back. And in the last competition in Oman, he had a 12-point lead to recover. He did, and he won it. All right, well, it's been trying for the sailors, some challenges for the sailors, and Morgan Larsson knew what he was up for just before he left the dock.
Okay, Morgan, it's the penultimate day here in Singapore. You've got a good lead, so how are you feeling about going out there today?
You know, here in Singapore, it's a challenge every day, and I don't think you can rest too heavily on the results you have behind you. You got to look forward and you know, keep trying to chip away at it. It's a tough place.
Remind us who's in second place at the moment and what they'll be doing to try and catch up with you.
Well, I'm assuming, I actually haven't looked at the results at all. I think the Wave, just going by the feeling, I think the Wave's right on our heels. And you know, those guys, they always are right there at the end. So we're expecting them to put a lot of pressure on us. And you know, for us, it's a little bit about just trying to adapt to the conditions. You know, today a little bit different wind direction. I think we're going to have a little different style of races. And we just got to get out there and try to put our best foot forward.
I mean, looking at the points, you do have a 12-point lead at the moment over the nearest boat, which is the Wave, as you rightly said. It's just difficult trying to maintain that with such a raft of talent out there. So how do you do it? Are you used to these conditions? How come you've managed to get the edge?
You know, it's a challenge out here, and 12 points can evaporate very fast. You know, it's hot, it's humid. You get 1 or 2 bad races, and things start to get a little tight on board, and you start making more mistakes. You don't see the wind as well. You're just not sailing the boat as smoothly and loosely. And then before you know it, you've lost 30 points to a competitor. So it can happen really fast out here. For us, you know, we've been sailing pretty loose, enjoying ourselves, you know, trying to keep it smooth, having the jokes rolling along. And, you know, the guys are having fun. We're having a good time, and I think that's shown in our results.
Just with Lee, what is it about him and his crew that enables them to always be a potent threat?
Well, you know, they're really good sailors. You know, they've been at it for a long time. They've been a team for a long time. They're at the top of their game, and you can never give them an inch because they're going to take a foot, and that's just how they are.
It's not just the Wave Muscat. Remind us who else is out there and who else you're worried about.
Yeah, you can never count out anybody. Red Bull's usually right there at a podium spot going in on the final race, but this event's special. There's a lot of opportunity for some of the younger, newer teams because it's tricky, and there's a little bit more luck in there, so rolling the dice can pay off. And you know, for us, I think looking back and focusing on the guys behind us would be a big mistake. You know, we just got to go out and try to do what we did yesterday, do what we did the day before, and that was just have a good time sailing and try to get up the course as best we can.
And obviously hoping to take Alinghi onto the podium at this event.
Yeah, you know, I think we'd be disappointed at anything less than that, but you know, things can happen. It's sailboat racing, but I'm hoping we can just move forward and extend our lead from here.
The confidence just seems to be up around the team in general. Why is that?
Well, you know, we've had a good run so far. We're working well together, and most of the races here, we were probably in the bottom 2 or 3 positions halfway through the race, and we've had great comebacks. And I think when you have comeback after comeback after comeback, you sort of expect it. And you know, I think we expect to be in the top 3 in every race, and that's how we're sailing the boat right now.
Morgan Larson, cool, calm, confident, and pretty effective out here on the racetrack in Singapore, and he's handling these difficult conditions pretty well. And he was just saying how 12 points can just disappear in an instant if you get wound up. We're seeing plenty of people who are getting wound up and are finding that to happen, and you can feel it just being outside in these conditions. You know, it's hard to keep you cool if things start going wrong.
Yeah, I think it's really important. One of the things with the way that the races have been unfolding for them, and an important point that he made, was that they have been deep in races and they have been able to work their way back. Other boats in this fleet have had blinding races, a big win, and then come out and backed it up with a last place. So for them, they're always consistently in that sort of top four, even if they're struggling, or they're better than that and they're winning. So even when they're having a tough day, they don't settle on a tough day, on a tough race. They work their way back into a position where they're solid again.
Difficult sailing, plenty to look at. There's no other race in the world that, I mean, what a sight this is. The Extreme Sailing Series has competed in major cities. We've had boats sailing in San Francisco, down the river in London, but I think as a stadium, this place beats it all. And there's talk about one day coming out here at night. Wouldn't that just be amazing?
Yeah, that'd be incredible. And for me, I've had an 18-month hiatus from the series, and as you said, having competed in the series 4 times previously, to take the break from it and actually sit at home and then come out to this event as your reintroduction to it, it's actually blown my mind. There isn't another property existing in sailing that mirrors this or matches it in any way, shape or form. The fact that the boats can come so close to the city and the people, these boats are 10 feet away from spectators in a CBD of a major city. It's crazy.
And it's attracting good people. Look at that, Morgan Larson, that's Alinghi, the America's Cup previous winners, Red Bull sailing team. And they're involved in the America's Cup, the Youth Cup in the Americas in United States, San Francisco. SAP are here, the Extremes, and the most successful nation of all in this tour is the nation of Oman, who are delivering great things for the sport of sailing, and a boat that we've been watching critically here this afternoon because they've been struggling is Lee McMillan and the Wave Muscat. All right, well, let's just give you the race course, shall we? It's increasingly difficult conditions as we look down at Marina Bay. That very short start, which is a short first leg, proved crucial to that yellow turning mark. And the last 2 races, the boat that was first to that yellow turning mark won the race. Then you've got some upwind legs where you're looking for that breeze, often in the centre of the course where the red line is. You do 2 of them, and then that short dog leg until the finish. But I think what's been relevant in every race is how critical the start is and getting around that first mark and into clear air.
Absolutely, Richard, and I think we're going to start to see more boats pushing that now. They realise now how critical it is, and those that have been hanging back and looking for some conservatism are just not going to wear it anymore. You need to be punchy, you need to be laying it all on the line and having a real serious crack at getting that time on distance right.
2 minutes to go now, so we've got the start line. Bottom left of picture, there's a black buoy out there. That is the line. It's an imaginary line on the water, but if you're to the left of it when the gun goes, then you have to go back and recross the line. We've seen 7 boats do that this afternoon. But if you're in the back of the pack, the other boats are often gone. We've seen boats struggle and fail to make any impact. Well, it's great for the crowd. They can lean over and shout a little bit of advice, offer a bit of support. 1 minute 20. And now, yeah, it's confusing, isn't it? Because now the boats are pointing the opposite direction to where they're ultimately going to go. They're going to come towards us, towards the screen, but they're now getting into position. Winds have got lighter. 1 minute to go.
Yeah, I did feel a little puff of breeze on my legs just then, but I looked behind myself and it does look very, very light.
It's seen a guy walk past.
Very, very small area of space for these guys to set up their start strategy, and it is very, very confusing to watch because they don't have a lot of room.
All right, keep an eye on the clock. Where the camera is on the shore side that's filming now is one end of the line, so any boat that goes to the left of it, they could be in trouble. 30 seconds now. Expect the boats to turn any second now and make their move. You can see the committee boat just above the right-hand end of the clock. So if you're looking at the time on the clock at the 18, it's between there and the boat directly opposite. And you can see Alinghi with the red and black sails are very close to the line, Nick. 10 seconds to go. We've got the local boat in the middle. the Swiss team. I don't think anyone's going to be over, Nick.
No, it looks good there. Team Aberdeen Singapore deployed early, Spinnaker out early. Real team, Spinnaker out early. Very, very slow though, not a lot of momentum. Looks like Alinghi at the top of the screen has had the best start in this instance.
Yeah, they were the one boat when I was saying nobody over. You had an eye on that one thinking, that's
close.
A brave move to say, yeah, that was really close. Lovely picture that now as the boats slide away from the start. We've got SAP sailing. We've got Red Bull look good at the far side, Nick.
Yeah, absolutely. And looking on board here at SAP, you can see how close they are to the wave again. The wave, again, not having a great start, not having everything their own way. The guys lifting the dagger boards there to reduce wetted surface area, trying to reduce drag.
And it's Red Bull and it's Alinghi. You've got the good start. And again, yeah, the Wave Muscat, sticky start that. Back of the boat, back of the pack, the two-tone blue sails, but it's Alinghi who've got that advantage in that very short 250-metre first leg. What are they going to do? Carry on down, or are they going to jibe out into the middle of the course? I think they're going to do that. Nice and easy, momentum going, nothing violent on board. They furl the Jenica up a bit as they jibe. They don't do anything to snag or slow things down.
Absolutely, and it is all finesse on board the boats right now. When you walk across the trampoline, which is the majority bridge between the two hulls, the boat shakes and everything shakes, and the flow of sail of the wind can get detached from the sails quite easily. So everybody's cat in a hot tin roof.
Alinghi have eked out a little advantage. The raft of boats at the back of that raft is the Wave Muscat. They're just going to sneak inside. They may get a place or two, but now as Alinghi finds some breeze and sail away, the boats that had the poorer starts are suffering. Look at that. Red Bull doing everything they can not to be dragged back into the melee. I think they're going to keep clear, but Alinghi have got good breeze, and I can definitely feel the breeze on the back of my legs now.
Absolutely, there is a small vein of breeze working its way down the race course. But it is important to see Alinghi break away, and now Red Bull breaking away as well. When all the boats are congested and together, they disrupt each other's wind flow, and hence it's really difficult to sail. It's really difficult to get attached flow on your sails, and really difficult to create some boat speed, as now they're all breaking away from each other, starting to separate and starting to get on the chase. But it's Alinghi's race right now.
Yeah, Alinghi have jived and are heading down to the bottom of the course. Just see those two white buoys down there. They're the next turning mark. Interesting, a couple of boats have gone the other side, but I think that the vast majority have now got the breeze, heading out into the middle of the pitch, and we're on board now with SAP. They're coming from the other side. You can see closer to the shore on that side.
Team Aberdeen there in the centre of the screen executing a penalty. They must have had a collision in that congested mark rounding.
Up at the mark. Alinghi heading to bottom left. Amazing that, isn't it, on the right-hand side for those of us new to Singapore. The float, the pitch there, 30,000 people watching football in a place like this. So Alinghi are heading down. You can see there is a bit of breeze exactly where they're going, bottom left of the picture. There's two marks, they can go around either one of them, and that's a boat that's really having a difficult afternoon. The two Omani sailors right up the front there, the waiters much forward, and also trying to make sure that the Jenica doesn't snag. You can get very tense on a boat, particularly when you're doing badly on a light wind day. There's a special atmosphere.
There is a special atmosphere, and it is like a huge amount of concentration. There is a really fine line between light air sailing on these boats, where everything is real finesse and the torque is really low. Nothing on board is being discussed other than how to get the most out of the boat. And then all of a sudden you've got another 5 or 10 knots of wind, and it turns into a mayhem and screaming and a lot of action and a lot of really harsh words, etc., in order to maintain some sort of coherency on board the boat.
But it's Alinghi that have rounded first. The Red Bull chose the other side of the racecourse. It's been interesting. It's a good course lane, this, by Phil Lawrence, because those two boys really are providing genuine alternatives. And Alinghi are carrying on, but Red Bull have tacked there. This is a difficult position for them. This is the last race of the day. The breeze is getting ever lighter. So there'll be no more sailing today, no more racing today, but Red Bull have tacked, and the advantage is now swinging heavily in the favour of Alinghi. A big shift, isn't there? Everyone of choosing that left-hand side. Red Bull now. We're looking at damage limitation. We're looking at a little more breeze coming up the middle of the race course.
This is very, very good for Alinghi here. It's turning into somewhat of a procession race up this city shoreline, and Red Bull isn't actually in a position where she's going to be able to create too many passing lanes or options there. Alinghi looks like everybody's just sitting behind her and following her. That's where she wants them to be. No real need or reason to protect as she tacks now, makes her way to the centre of the course, looking for a little bit more wind in the middle of the course. Everybody else will follow her line. And this way she's staying between herself and the next mark, between her competitors and the next mark, and she's happy with the way this race is unfolding for her.
There we go, so Alinghi now are coming across the middle of the racetrack. And they're doing exactly what Red Bull did in the last race. Got a bit of advantage, get out ahead. Sometimes I don't really understand why that happens. The boat just gets a little bit ahead, not much distance, and then off and gone. It's happened 3 times this afternoon here. And there we are, Alinghi. Look, they say winners are grinners, but you can just feel the atmosphere on a board a boat that's doing well, can't you?
Absolutely.
You can just see that in the way they're talking to each other.
And they have a clear lane. They're in a corridor that's relatively clear. There's not other boats around that are trying to dictate their race for them or what angle away from the wind that they do sail, what boat speed they sail, etc. They're able to do their own thing.
So Alinghi are a roll into attack. Beautiful evening now, much cooler. But for these sailors, I know they've been really careful to make sure the sailors have kept hydrated. As the sailor yesterday was taken off a boat, absolutely exhausted, dehydrated. As Alinghi now have tacked and prepared to go downwind for the second and final time. Good leg there for Alinghi. Came up close to the shore. And they came up the opposite side to Red Bull, who've paid the penalty for that decision. Very cruel as they rounded the mark. They sailed into a hole and were on the wrong side of a shift. So Morgan Larson, who's having an exemplary regatta, an outstanding end of the day. He's a guy you know well, Nick.
Yeah, he's a guy I know well, and he is a really cool customer by nature. He's an incredibly talented sailor and a really diverse sailor, for anything from small boat dinghies. You know, I've had involvement with him in 18-foot skiffs in the past in Australia, all the way through to the America's Cup. He's incredibly diverse, and he has this really unbelievable persona where nothing's a drama. Everything's quite well calculated, and there's always a good solution to a problem.
He stepped into this tour, didn't he, last year in Oman? Jumped on a boat, got his crew, and his first ever event, he beat absolutely everyone. He won it.
Yeah, it was amazing. From a distance, watching that was incredible to see. And he's a really good-natured person, one of those people that just doesn't have enemies, that people are really glad to see win, which is not that common in real life in any sport, really.
Well, now we're looking at the advantage that friend of Nick's, Morgan Larson, new to the tour this last year, new to Alinghi this year. He was tactician with Ernesto Bertarelli, the man who founded Alinghi and led them to America's Cup glory. And Mr. Bertarelli himself has been skippering this boat, will do during the season. Ernesto, a big, huge, enthusiastic multi-hull sailor.
I don't like to set up any controversies either, but with Morgan's last year campaign being part of the Oman Sail project, he's obviously taking a lot of information with him away from what has been a nest egg that Lee McMillan and the team of the Wave Muscat have developed, and he's walked away with a lot of that knowledge, transferred it onto an already very good team, and obviously improved their performance.
And he is the man who is now rolling Alinghi into a jibe at the bottom of the race course. He's going to opt for that shore side. And Alinghi are now got one upwind leg in front of us. Yeah, we were talking about Lee McMillan, a guy who knows Morgan Larsson and Alinghi so well. The two skippers who are having very different afternoons out on the water.
Yeah, it must be difficult for them too, having been teammates effectively last year and now having that separation where they are real rivals. And for one to be, having a better regatta than the other on their day is hard to swallow. And although they'll pass each other in the boat park and pat each other on the back and go, "Well done, mate, you're doing a great job," they'll walk away mumbling under their breath, "Well, I hope your mast falls down tomorrow," type thing.
On board SAP, Jive, they've lost 2 places, back now in 6th position. We're coming to the close of play here on the waters of Singapore. SAP, they've really had a good end of the afternoon. They'd have been delighted. They got that race win, but they've been sailing really confidently. They're great guys. They've really, some crews in it, you feel there's a bunch of individuals who turn up and sail together, and every now and again you meet a unit. And I think when you spend time with the SAP team, they did an awful lot to attract the partners, to support them for sailing. They made a big decision to come out of a world that they were familiar with and expose themselves into something with a different sort of sailing. And the first year was a lot about learning. They said this year we want to prove a few points, and in their understated way they're beginning to do just that as Alinghi do a carbon copy of what they did last time. Coming across the middle of the course, they'll be looking to finish soon because the breeze and the light are starting to fade. Beautiful time of the day here in Singapore now.
As we go on board Alinghi, we see Morgan there pumping the hydraulics of the main sheet, indicating that there is more wind. He's accelerating quite nicely, winding the Traveller up, harnessing as much power out of this little gust of wind that he's found himself in, and using every inch to extend his lead on Real Team, make that little buffer comfort zone that little bit wider.
Looking fairly comfortable now. Looking behind, yeah, I like that. Not too worried. There's no one at the other side of the course who could take any advantage. You can see the little zephyr of breeze he's in is going to continue. And Larsson carries on now, thinking when he's going to make his tack, but actually very comfortable indeed. Real Team behind. Good day for them out in the water. They're going to be absolutely in the shout for a podium place at the end of today. Remember, we've got one more day of racing. The finale, that's tomorrow. That will complete 4 days of racing, targeting around about 30 races. But the guys will be pretty exhausted after today. And Red Bull sailing, looking ahead towards Alinghi, who have made that final tack. Good day's sailing. I think when you can deliver consistency in weather like this, it's a mark of the man and the team.
Absolutely. They'll take a lot of confidence away from this, and they'll be looking forward to tomorrow, while there will be a few crews in this fleet that'll be waking up tomorrow morning going, "Oh no, here we go again. Which way's the dice going to roll?" And these guys will feel like they're not rolling the dice. They'll feel like they have some control over how the race plays out for them.
So Alinghi, Morgan Larsson, who once again it was the boat that had the best start that is heading for the best finish. After that short 200 metre first leg, it was Alinghi leading Red Bull. Alinghi extended at the first upwind leg. They chose an opposite side of the course to the team in second. That was Red Bull. And from then on, things just got better and better. Morgan Larsson will step off his boat. A tired man, but a very pleased one. Great afternoon for Alinghi. They lead the Extreme Sailing Series here in Singapore. Do it again tomorrow. They'll win the trophy. But there's plenty more to come tomorrow. Racing from 3 o'clock in the afternoon local time. And we've got Real Team now. They're a unit that's impressed many people here. Only their second ever event on the tour. They weren't planning to do this tour until relatively soon before it started. It's a Swiss crew who again know each other well, competing in multi-hulls. And it's Real Team who'll get second. It's very close for third though, because of the Wave Muscat have had a good end to a disappointing day as Real Team finished And Red Bull Sailing just creep inside, but Macmillan, a fourth is a counter, I'm using your language. Red Bull Sailing squeezed on the inside. Macmillan and the Wave Muscat have actually played catch up here. There is Egara. Mixed day, but I think on balance, yeah, he's in the fight for the podiums, nothing to be disappointed with.
Yeah, I do feel they had a pretty good day, to be honest, and they will be happy with that.
We're going to be bringing you the final scores before we leave you this evening. Join us same time tomorrow for the conclusion of this. And Red Bull Sailing come down to claim second place in this race. Third place rather behind Real Team, Red Bull Sailing, and then the Wave Muscat. Fourth for the Wave Muscat. Team Korea coming round. Solid fifth for them. GAC Pinder just behind. And Korea coming down to the bottom of the course. GAC, well, today's been much harder than yesterday. Yesterday they ended up inside the podium places. And Team SAP, disappointment. They've won a race, they've been inside the top three today, but the day's ended with disappointment for them, but there'll be a team further back. I can see the local team. Well, Rob Greenhouse has had a good day, really, sailing with two crew members who've never been on this tour before. They're coming in at the end, but there'll be plenty of support from the local team heading down towards the finish of this race. Team Aberdeen, Singapore. Well, they got stuck in a corner there, no wind at all, difficult times. And coming down towards the finish of this race. Well, we've seen no capsizing here in Singapore, but I can tell you when the wind blows, these boats really are very different animals. There we are, Aberdeen cross the line to conclude their day's racing. That concludes the day's racing here. 3 o'clock tomorrow afternoon, local time in Singapore, when the fleet will be in action. And tomorrow afternoon, 2 hours later, we'll be bringing you the coverage as the Extreme Sailing Series comes to its conclusion here in Singapore. Well, we're looking at Macmillan, a man who has rather a lot on his plate. Lost the lead in the last 2 days. We spoke to him before he started sailing today.
On the surface, not bad, but I'm sure you're not happy with where you are. Looking to improve on the performance today.
Yeah, it was a pretty long, hard day yesterday, and you know, we felt the frustrations of the tricky conditions here at times. We still had a few victories as well through the day, which kind of kept us in the chase. It's no surprise that Alinghi are at the top of the leaderboard right now. They were my call at the beginning of the event. Morgan on the helm, he's extremely talented. He's going to be one of the toughest guys to beat this year, and we just got to keep sailing well, and we're feeling a bit more relaxed today, having got a big day out of the way yesterday, and looking forward to some racing.
You've seen large margins before and they haven't troubled you in the past too much. Just talk me through what you've maybe said to the guys about what you're going to do to beat those guys.
I mean, in all honesty, obviously we'd love to win here in Singapore and keep on the roll that we started in Oman, but the conversation's more along the lines of the big picture, and we're very much focused on the overall series and not each individual event so much, and that's what the conversation's actually been about. So we're a bit more relaxed about the situation. We had our eye on Alinghi SA, and they just kept on making huge comebacks and just sailed out of their skins extremely well. I'm sure they're going to keep on that roll. We'll try and hold them down a little bit, but we just got to focus on our own races, and that's what we're going to do.
Just remind us, how tricky has Singapore been? I mean, nobody's going to say it's been an easy ride here.
It's extremely difficult conditions. You can find yourself in absolutely no wind for over a minute at times, with the whole fleet kind of finding the breeze in a different part of the racecourse, and that gets very frustrating. There's very little you can do, and so the tension does rise on the boat. But the opportunities, they go around. Everyone gets their chance, and as long as you capitalise when the opportunity comes your way, and you're ready to actually take it and haven't got too stressed, then you can make the most of it, and that's what need to keep doing all through the weekend.
Lee McMillan, the skipper of the Wave Muscat. There is the Wave Muscat. Well, he was saying the atmosphere on board can get a little tense in these conditions, and today we saw that. Defending champions last year, this team were unstoppable, but today really struggling, and they got into what I've heard them describe as a negative snowball. When one thing starts to go wrong, it compounds. Difficult times, but as they take their sails down, tomorrow is another day. I don't think they've sailed themselves out of contention for a podium place, but I think Alinghi are going to be hard to beat. 178 plays 151. That's one of the biggest leads we've ever seen in the Extreme Sailing Series, and when Morgan Larson, the skipper, arrived here, there was a twinkle in his eye that suggested he meant business. He did. But the Wave Muscat, despite all that, look at that, third place overall still. So absolutely up there and in the podium mix, but Alinghi have got it all to lose tomorrow, and the way they're sailing, I don't think you'd expect them to do that. But these are difficult days, these are challenging days. A team to note there is SAP Extreme Sailing. That team disappointed with the first round of the series. That was in Oman in February. They've turned things round. SAP have come here, and the team are in good spirits, and I really think this could be their event.
Act 2 Singapore. It's really a spectacular venue. It's going to be a really tricky one. Light winds, surrounded by buildings. Extremely difficult, mental hard game. We're going to try as good as we can and see how it goes. Definitely, we have been looking at some improvements since Oman. We changed a few settings to the boat. We have been analysing some of the tactical decisions in the light breeze. We're still learning a lot with the multi-hull sailing, so we definitely think we're better prepared this time, and looking forward to some good racing. Yeah, I think first of all you have to sail your own game here. That's going to be important, but definitely the Wave, really strong team. Red Bull normally strong in the light breeze. It's going to be interesting to see with Morgan back at the helm of Alinghi. I think they'll be strong too. So I think they're the three favourites, and yeah, we'll just have to see how we go. We're really hungry to perform well. That's why we're here. We have a big passion for racing and for winning as well. But realistically, we're still new in the game, and we're still learning a lot. And light wind is still probably our weakest point. But hopefully, we have done some good improvements for this regatta.
Relaxed but confident about the future. The SAP Extreme Sailing, their third equal at the moment. This is only their second year on the tour. That's the result in Singapore, third equal. Tomorrow, plenty more action. Starts local time here, around about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, as the boats now get unpacked. The rigs and the sails rather come down at the end of a day. It's been a difficult day of competition for the sailors as we look over the Singapore skyline. Tomorrow, expecting 10 races. Forecast for tomorrow is 6 to 8 knots. Slightly more wind tomorrow afternoon, so more action and less stress for the race officer. Today, difficult day. Who did it punish most? No question about that. It was Lee McMillan's Wave Muscat operation. They came out today with an eye on the top of the table, but at the end they were looking to defend their podium place. Amongst those who did succeed today, Red Bull Sailing, a good day for the Austrians. Can they upgrade and win their first ever tour on the Extreme Sailing Series? They've proved they've got the potential today. So tomorrow, similar conditions. We've got 8 of the world's strongest teams now. They're coming in ashore. There'll be debriefs. There'll be a lot of water drunk. Tomorrow morning, they'll be back. We'll be back same time, 5 o'clock local time in Singapore, to find the winner of the Extreme Sailing Series. See you then.